Or Tuesday is going well. My Wednesday is midday. It's 11:30 a.m. here Wednesday morning. I just uploaded my breakdown, analysis, and prediction of the Jahi Tucker and Truck Simpson fight. So in this live stream, we're gonna focus any questions initially on that. Currently, all I'm getting are the money line odds, but I think as we get closer to fight night, I think there's a method of victory odds or a bet if you guys have it is probably the safer bet, but we'll have to see if the odds allow us to do that, if your sportsbook allows us to do that. Also, we've been covering all week, obviously, Tokyo this Thursday, Jin Sasaki versus Norman Jr., as well as what's going down in the UK with Galal Yafai and Christian Francisco Jr., Francisco Rodriguez Jr. So on this live stream, we can leave the questions, start building our parlay, and I'll let this simmer wherever you guys are. Welcome, and all I ask from you is like this video. So if you go to my post section right now, I know some of you guys are new to the channel. Some of you guys aren't really aware of how to navigate YouTube, but if you go to my channel and you see home section, shorts, playlists, lives, you'll see a post section. I just posted the odds at the beginning of the week of that Christian Araneta fight and the odds currently. And I have never seen a fight in 48 hours with the odds change that drastically, literally almost flip-flopping. And so now what I'm thinking of is maybe there's fights every week that Vegas gets it wrong initially. And I don't know. I just never see anything like that. Hopefully you got in on it because I got Araneta at 220 on the money line. I think he's going to win convincingly. He's gone from a 220 underdog to a $1.64 favorite. So I assume and I predict that that's going to keep going down. So if you guys have a parlay you're working on, throw him on a parlay right now if you can, if you're getting the options to bet on that fight. We talked a little bit about some knockdown parlays this morning, knockdown prop bets this morning on the Brian Norman Jr. versus Jin Sasaki fight. If you guys want to sort of go that route, I think there's some nice odds on a round margin sort of bet. Other markets, round betting, alternate markets, knockdown markets. I like the knockdown market. There's a knockdown market that I'm probably going to do, and I'll put my secondary prop ticket up on the channel tonight. I already gave you guys one ticket so far for this week, and that's the Norman Jr. stoppage with the Araneta money line. But I'm going to also do a prop ticket that I'll go over right now that I'll put on the channel. Both fighters to be knocked down is an interesting pick. 12-1 right now. Just because when you look at both guys' styles, Norman Jr. and Sasaki, Sasaki more than Norman Jr., he's going to fight the entire fight on the front foot in the pocket. So I see him getting dropped for sure, and I see him getting stopped. And so there's fun knockdown props that you could kind of get really good odds on. Alternate rounds. Okay. Another one is the over-under. We talked about this on the morning live stream. A bet that, like, even if you put $25 on this, in terms of risk versus reward, the fight to go under 4.5. The fight to go under 4.5, 5. It pays $6 right now. So I think I'm gonna piece something together, and like I said, I will put that in the group, kind of like a fun bet, but there's reason to it. Now, I just broke down Jahi Tucker and Truck Simpson. That's an interesting matchup. I think it's kind of flying under the radar in terms of channels talking about it. I don't see a lot of publicity. It's a top-ranked card. It is the co-main on the Vito Melnicki fight card in New Jersey. It's a battle of Brooklyn versus Baltimore. We know that Jahi Tucker's 22. He turned pro as a teen. Top Rank signed him, I think, as a 17-year-old. The only blemishes on his resume, he has one loss and he has one draw. He got beat by Nick Flaz. And if you ask me, when you pair up a kid at 20 years old against a guy like Nick Flaz, I just felt like that was a little bit too much too soon for Jahi Tucker. But, you learn from that experience. And whoever's managing his career, they're really not giving Jahi Tucker too many easy fights. So it's an interesting fight. He does a lot of things unorthodox. When you think about his opponent, Truck Simpson, southpaw, he's a little bit more conventional in terms of, how he goes about his business. He keeps a high guard. He walks you down. Good body puncher. Wants to land that backhand. And so you're going to have like an unorthodox style versus a traditional style. I think that with Lorenzo Simpson, his offensive game plan is a bit one-dimensional in terms of what he wants to do. And I think neither guy is a finished product as we speak. I think both guys are trying to figure out who they are as a professional, where they stand in the rankings. You have Tucker ranked 30th globally on BoxRec's algorithm of middleweights at 160 pounds. And you have Simpson not ranked at 160. This fight is at 160 because he's had a couple fights where he's fought up. He had a couple fights with overtime, and he has a couple losses. But, an interesting split decision loss when he was fighting in overtime, and you have that rule to where you go an extra round. He lost there. And some would say both of his losses could have gone either way. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. If you guys can get a prop, I feel, on that fight to go the distance. I don't know what it pays. I'm not getting that at all yet. All I'm getting on my book is the money line, and Tucker is the favorite. He's $1.30, and Simpson is not quite a 3-1 underdog. But I'm kind of waiting to see if my book opens up to give me to see what those odds look like. So wherever you guys are tuning in, if you happen to on your book could see the odds of Tucker versus Simpson, and let me know if they're allowing you to, will the fight go the distance sort of prop. I like that because Simpson's a 390 underdog, 100 gets you your money back, plus 290, so not quite 3-1. I think the path to victory with Simpson is much more narrow with how he beats Tucker. I think Tucker will have a little bit more offensive tools. He switches. When you watch him fight, he kind of reminds you, there's pieces of his game that kind of look like sometimes, Emmanuel Augustus. Sometimes you see a bit of Jaron Ennis. Sometimes you see a bit of Joshua Kelly. He's a guy who really doesn't conserve his movements. So he's not really an efficient fighter, but I think a lot of that will change as he matures into his career. And so in my breakdown prediction, I see Jahi Tucker beating Simpson. Is the $1.30 enough juice for me to put it on a parlay as of now? I think so. And I'm also predicting that these odds, rather than getting closer come fight night, I think these odds are probably going to expand as well. When the bettors are starting to look at this fight, especially with the other options, the other fight cards going on this weekend, I think they're going to see value in Tucker. So I assume if you like Tucker now on the money line, I would take him because I think as we get closer to fight night, that $1.30 probably, I'm going to predict maybe drop to $1.25, $1.24. So we'll see what happens with that fight. I also covered the Galalia 5 fight. That's on the playlist. If you haven't seen the breakdown, you could definitely catch that. That he's fighting, his biggest test, Francisco Rodriguez Jr. That's going down in Birmingham, England. If you're unfamiliar with Galal, he's a gold medal Olympian, 32 years old. This will be his 10th pro fight, 9 wins, 7 stoppages. What's up, El Rabbit? In my app, Christian Araneta by decision, 4 by knockout, 250. Mate, what is just the money line right now, Rabbit? Because both guys on paper, Araneta and Simstri, have a lot of knockouts. It's just that when you look at how they've gone about their business, who they fought, their strength of schedule, that's why I was shocked earlier in the week that Araneta was the underdog. So I already went heavy on Araneta, and I got him as the dog. And it's crazy because right now he's only paying 64 cents to the 100, but I got him almost 3 times the money. I don't know who were making those odds. Sometimes Vegas gets it wrong, and this is definitely one they got it wrong. And you could go to my first live stream of the week 2 days ago. I told you guys, I was like, dude, jump on this fight, the co-main. So they're not letting me do a prop, but if you could, do I see him stopping the Thai fighter? I do. When you think about, I win a lot of money. This is nothing against the Thai boxers. I love Muay Thai. in mixed martial arts. But when a lot of these guys come from Thailand, because we see a lot of the Thai fighters here in Australia, a lot of the Sydney-based fighters will bring in the Thai fighters to kind of fatten their record up. And my point of that is, yeah, Steady like to throw these wild lead hooks over the top. I'll finish that thought before I get to the Norman Sasaki. My point of the Thai fighters is that when they transition from Muay Thai to boxing, they don't sit on their punches. They don't have a lot of pop. They don't really fare well against at a higher level outside of a domestic level of Thailand. And so the Filipino fighter, I feel, has the deeper arsenal. Who are you talking about right now? What's up, fam? Next Gen Combat. I was talking about Araneta versus Simstri. I was talking about the odds. Norman by knockout, by TKO. And we could definitely talk about Norman Jr. versus Sasaki. For everybody who talks about what Norman Jr. doesn't do well, because I've seen some of the comments on my page and other pages, those things that you're talking about, Norman Jr. keeps his lead hand down. In order for his opponent, Sasaki, to capitalize on that, you have to talk about what Sasaki doesn't do well. He doesn't throw the jab. He doesn't move his head. He stays in the pocket. He got knocked out and stopped against a 140-pound fighter. So you have to, if you're going to reason that versus that, it works both ways. And Norman Jr. is the better athlete. He is the world champion. I think him by stoppage is a steal. I think he's a steal. And I got him Monday. So 2 days ago, I made my two-leg prop bet. I got him at $1.80 2 days ago to win by stoppage. Those odds went slightly down. And like I said, I started this video. I'm thinking about under 4.5, which as a fun bet. I'm thinking about under 4.5 as a fun bet. My book here has that at 5-1. $100 gets you your money back plus 500. Because I think Sasaki's aggression, everything Sasaki does well at the domestic level, I don't think that's going to work against Norman Jr. He fights on his front foot. He doesn't move his head. He doesn't set up his body work with his jab. Good body work, but keeps his hands down. And I think that's tailor-made for a guy like Norman. Yeah, I mean, has Norman ever faced any body puncher like Sasaki? Now, body puncher, look, guys, for everything, all the tape I've seen on Jin Sasaki, man, I really don't rate him. I know BoxRec rates him at a really, really high level just because of their algorithm. I mean, he got stopped against Andy Hiroka. He got stopped against Hiroka at 140 pounds. He drew against a domestic guy at 140 pounds. And I love the Japanese boxers. I love their willingness to exchange. I love their willingness to trade. His body punching looks good until it doesn't look good. And guys, going into the Cuevas fight, I talked about this on our earlier live stream today. People were talking about Cuevas because he had never been stopped. They were talking about Cuevas' power. They were talking about him being able to stop Norman Jr. And what happened in that fight? Norman Jr. stopped him. And, same thing with, look what does Norman look like as of late? Obviously, he's never lost. His last two fights, Santillan and Cuevas, I feel he's added slowly but surely elements to his defensive game from Santillan to Cuevas. He got clipped at the end of the first or second early against Cuevas, but he wasn't in danger, and then he stopped him. And so, in terms of what he brings to the offensive bag against Sasaki, where Sasaki is taking this fight, Sasaki doesn't have good feet. He's going to want to stay in the pocket. Like I said, it's going to be up to Norman it's going to be up to Norman Jr. what game plan he chooses to fight against Sasaki. What path to victory? Sasaki has one path. Go to the pocket, make Norman engage in a firefight, break him down from the body, and Sasaki's going to hope that his power holds up over Norman Jr. Norman Jr. could do that as well, but he also could box. He could also use the ring. He could use his feet if he wants to. We'll see what happens. How's these individuals on live you're talking about? So, guys, wherever you're tuning in, let's like this video. Keep the questions coming. If you want to see the breakdowns of this Norman Jr. Sasaki fight, it's on the playlist. I did that earlier in the week. Go to my fight prediction playlist if you're new to the channel, and you'll see my edited and produced breakdowns uninterrupted of all these fights. So far, I've done the Norman Jr. Sasaki. We did the Galalia 5 fight, and I just uploaded Jahi versus Truck. Thoughts on Sasaki to be dropped? I like it. I think he's going to get dropped. And basically my winning streak with the Japanese fighters, dating back to we'll say the last month. I hit a 15-1 on Naoya Inoue to get dropped. I bet against Ramon Cardenas. He got dropped. I won that bet. Nakatani to win by stoppage. Won that bet. Sugar Nunes to beat Rikishi. Won that bet. Andy Cruz to stop Mishiro. Won that bet. And, looking at it, I think that only because the Japanese style is so predictable. It's fun to watch. I love the Japanese style. They fight almost with too much pride. Crack vids, I'm going to do, you know what? I like your style. Can I do a Hail Mary vid? You know what? We could call it a Hail Mary parlay. That's when I guess I'll add in those knockdown prop bets. I'll do one, Crack, and I'll title it our Hail Mary parlay. I like the title of that. Always looking for new ideas. But yeah, the same reason why Japanese fighters are so exciting is also their undoing, and it's why when you look at how Nakatani goes about his business, he's aggressive, but he's a little bit more practical. And I think a lot of that has to do with the coaching that he's received in East LA. So they're fun to watch. I just think, that over-aggression is their undoing. And, we'll see Thursday night. I'm comfortable with that pick. I love the little two-leg parlay I put heavy on. Red Light Therapy, Dwayne Styles. Appreciate you guys. Wherever you guys are tuning in, I appreciate you. Yeah. Tucker by close decision. Mac in the house. Yep. So we're guys, if you're just tuning in now, we're talking about Brian Norman Jr. and Jahi versus Truck. Like I said, Mac, on my app, they're only giving me the money line. Tucker versus Truck. I'm betting on Jahi. Appreciate you, Trump approves. Love from Florida, love from Sydney. My roots are American, though. You guys know that. Wherever you are, could you like this video, though? Just do me that favor. Keep the questions coming. Tucker by knockout late. Let's see what those odds are, Danger. Oh, yeah, they're not giving me it. Danger, does your betting app allow you to pick Tucker by stoppage? If so, let me know what they're saying. But, neither guy has one-punch knockout power. And when you look at how Jahi Tucker goes about his business, he really kind of just wins. I don't know if he stops Truck Simpson. VA, believe that. Do you guys see Tucker stopping Simpson? Simpson's going to be the bigger dude. He's fought at heavier weight classes before. I still think he's trying to figure out his proper weight class. The Shy. Appreciate you, Jinru. Because Mac, I think that was Mac who said, whoever just said stoppage, that's the first I heard somebody seeing Jahi stopping Lorenzo Simpson. And my hesitation on Tucker stopping Simpson is actually Simpson's sort of defensive high guard, because he does come here. He's southpaw. He does keep it here a bit more, and he likes prodding, working the body to set the backhand up. I'm not comparing him to Errol Spence by no means, but when you kind of see him box and his physicality and sort of like his methodology, how he goes about his business, like EJ did obviously everything better. His power was better. He was a finisher, world class. But it's similar to that. Simpson doesn't have like a plan B or plan C in terms of his offensive arsenal. But Tucker really doesn't go in there and try to get you out of there. I know there's vitriol on this fight, so you could be onto something. They were talking a lot of trash back and forth. Jahi said the only reason this fight got made is because Simpson was running his mouth. They talked about sparring in the past. Truck Simpson said that he dropped Tucker in the past in sparring, and Tucker came out and said that was a lie. So you never know. Sometimes you think you know how a guy fights, and then depending on the matchup, they come out and look a total different way. Danger Green. Yeah. And guys, we have to remember, he's only 22. So I could see it happening, Danger. It's the same reason if you guys remember my reasoning for taking Hitchens to stop George was the fact that, he hadn't had a great performance yet, and I felt like he was capable and had the accuracy to stop him in terms of his punch placement. And so that happened. So if you feel the same with Tucker, I'd like to know what the odds are. I'm not getting those odds right now, though. I just got the money line. Pete, you guys were asking about some other fights. Kona Walker versus Liam Taylor. Those odds are getting wider too. 2 days ago, Kona Walker was the favorite. Liam Taylor, it's a fight in the UK. It's starting to expand, and I see why. I think Kona Walker handles Liam Taylor. I really do. So if you really like that fight to fatten up a parlay, I would jump on it now because right now Walker, I'm getting him at $1.43. I think as we get closer to fight night, that'll probably drop to maybe 135. So you do have to start keeping an eye on certain fights that you like. They usually release the lines on Friday. The props, specifically if Tucker uses his feet. Yeah, Jahi by knockout plus 450. It's something to think about. DJ, I told you, Araneta is now the favorite, which is insane. What's up, Rando? DJ was following me all week. Rando in the house. DJ, let me talk about Araneta because I talked about him earlier, and I know some of you guys are just coming on. Earlier in the week, it was one of those things where what I do is I'm such a boxing nerd. As soon as the fight card ended in New York City on my Sunday, your Saturday, with Kambosos and Hitchens, I went straight to my sports book. I went straight to next week boxing schedule, and I saw that's when I posted. I screenshot it for you guys. It was my Sunday, your Saturday, and I said, this fight right here, the guy who's the underdog, they have this wrong. So if you could take him, do it. And so I got him at 220 the beginning of the week, and now he's the favorite. So I think every now and then Vegas, for one reason or another, they get it wrong with their initial odds. And here's what I think. It's because when you look at his opponent, Simsri, BoxRec has him ranked higher because he's 36, I think of his 36 wins, 34 by knockout, something like that. But look who he's fought. 2-8, 3-4, 4-rounders, 6-rounders, domestic level Thai fighters. You know what I'm saying? Then you look at how Araneta's gone about his business. Just a little bit more classier work there. And if you could get, if you still like that fight, take him now. That's here in Canada. Win Santiago in the house. Way better for us. Locked him in. Nice, DJ. Exactly. Good. I'm glad you did that. Now all he has to do is win. Because I said it. I better not see another performance like last time I'm ever going to mention it. Gorsh versus Alate. That's the last time I mentioned that Ghana card. That Ghana card left a bad taste. Not going to bring it up again. But like I said, this is a domestic level fight. And I usually don't like betting heavy on domestic level fighters. But when I saw the odds, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going heavy. I'm going heavy. I'm in. It might raise some anxiety for sure. I'm checking out some of these other fights, guys. Not a lot of good money. I know somebody, I think it was, she was on our earlier stream. Every now and then we get a couple ladies who tune in, a couple women who know they're boxing on the stream. And I apologize if I forget her name. But she asked about David Stevens versus Peter Kamakov. So that's a fight that's interesting when you look at, I think that's a headliner on DAZN. I think DAZN is marketing that fight. I'm not quite sure where that's taking place. But if you're looking at the odds, it's almost like even money. I'm not going to predict it yet. I have to do my due diligence. But as of now, my parlay, if we're going money line, Araneta, this is money line. Araneta, Brian Norman Jr., Peter McGrill, Galal Yafai. This is the long parlay. But I'll solidify it tomorrow for you guys before Japan's fight. Jahi Tucker, Vito Melnicki, and Callum Walsh. Those 7 on a long parlay, I might just stick with that for the long parlay. I already gave you my double leg for Norman Jr. and Araneta, and then I'm gonna take your advice, and we're gonna do a Hail Mary parlay. And on that Hail Mary parlay, I'm gonna put things like under 4.5 rounds, a knockdown prop, like a fun one, because it keeps things interesting. And if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. Whoever just said Tucker by stoppage, that has me thinking now, because I predicted it, and I'm picking Tucker to win, but I guess I didn't really see a path for him to win by stoppage, because neither guy is going to volume you to death. But then again, Simpson, he doesn't throw enough for my liking. And, Tucker has the more diverse offensive game. Looking at the over. All right, Chinchilla. Stevens and Kamakov looking at the over. And right now, guys, that Stevens fight, Stevens is the slight favorite at $1.72, and Peter Kamakov is $2.25. So if you're looking at the over, Yeah, I'm not getting it. Yeah, our betting apps have our positives and negatives. The negative on my betting app is other than like the big fights, the only two fights I'm getting even options to get a method of victory are the Brian Norman Jr. fight, and that's it actually. They're not showing me anything else. Simpson's never been stopped before. Interesting prediction. Yeah, I mean Lorenzo's never been stopped before. I agree. I agree. But if you watch my breakdown video, this will be Truck's first fight going 10 rounds. Here's my reasoning for taking Tucker versus Simpson. A couple things. A few of the variables are because what I've seen in the ring, and then one major variable is what I've seen out of the ring. Simpson, yeah, he has 2 losses. He's never fought a 10-rounder before, okay? He's been on record in interviews saying that he sometimes goes through these lulls in a fight where he loses focus, where he admits to having lack of focus and concentration. When I hear a guy talk like that, it's tough for me to kind of, it's easy for me to question sort of where his head's at when things start getting tough in a fight I'm talking about. He is only 25 years old. He's young. His losses, Vladimir Hernandez. Some people had that fight going the other way. Could have gone the other way. The split decision loss in overtime. I don't like the rules there. I don't like how you get an extra round if it's a draw, just for the sheer psychological of what happens when a fight goes, your mindset. Think about, I know this isn't the case, but think about Liam Wilson versus Navarrete, that long count. Wilson knocks Navarrete down. It was like a 24 count. Wilson thinks he wins by knockout, and then he ends up getting stopped. Psychologically, it's tough for you to turn back on. Dubois versus Usyk the first time, that low blow. Dubois thought it was legal. He kind of celebrates, shuts off, and then it's called a low blow. They have to fight on, and then he gets stopped. Psychologically, even having to fight that extra round, it would be tough to do. So my point is, I see what you're saying about Simpson. He's a good fighter, but in his offensive artillery, he doesn't have a plan B or C offensively. From that southpaw, high guard, wants to land. I like his body work. I think he goes through lulls of inactivity in a fight. I wish he would have more volume. I wish his work rate would be a little bit more. I sometimes will question how hungry in that dogfight he gets. And then with Jahi Tucker, he does a lot of things that I like. He's unorthodox. He throws punches from different angles. His work rate's a little higher. His angle changes. Some things like what I talked about earlier, when you watch him box, you see a lot. You see why he was signed as a 17-year-old. He's fought, I feel, the tougher guys. I mean, he fought Nick Flaz when he was 19 or 20 years old. It's his only loss. Nick Flaz is a fun fighter, a tough out. Not a perfect record, but, Nick Flaz is a guy that people tune in for. It's a tough fight for a 19, 20-year-old to fight. So I would also give the resume strength towards Jahi Tucker. I think the odds are fair. I think that Simpson's an underdog for a reason. Also, the weight classes. They're fighting at 160 to walk away with $668. I meant. Maybe I missed something there. But yeah, if you want to see the full video, it's on my playlist. I give you my reasoning more in depth with uninterrupted on why I went with Tucker. And you can see, and in those videos, you'll see videos of them sparring, of them, their highlights. And I talk about, their intangibles as well. Tucker in 8, Brett Stewart. Yeah, so Brett's the second guy who's kind of highlighting to the point that they could see Jahi stopping Simpson. I think it's going to be a dogfight, though, because of it's personal. You add that to, they're both talking about, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from Baltimore. You add that to it. Their coaches are doing media, talking one side. Whenever a fight's personal, it's usually harder to get the other guy out of there, and vice versa. I previously said that I added more to Brian Norman by stoppage. Now I have 350 to walk away with 668. Yeah. Nice. So everybody, those here still on the stream, we're 30 minutes in, second live stream of the day. You guys see Brian Norman stopping Sasaki. Why do you see him stopping Sasaki? What do you see in Norman Jr.'s game that is going to be tailor-made for him to stop Sasaki? Because Sasaki's been stopped once by Andy Hiroka. I was at 140. and a lot of people are high on him. I got into a debate earlier. Somebody was defending Sasaki's hand speed, and I didn't see it. Some people were saying Sasaki's going to have the speed advantage against Norman. Yes. Brandon, terrible defense by Sasaki. Just not responsible, right? He does things sort of... I think at the world-class level, guys, you can't anticipate a knockout. And Sasaki fights that way. He fights, but that's because of the opponents he's fighting in Japan. He kind of boxes like he's anticipating to knock everybody out, meaning that he can't get knocked out. But we've seen him get stopped before. So for his defense to still have that many holes, it's not going to change. The craziest thing, though, is I should also mention, even though Brian Norman Jr. is the youngest male boxing champion at 24, if Sasaki beats him, Sasaki takes that title because he's only 23. So he's not a finished product either. I think Sasaki has the hand speed advantage. Okay, when throwing combos, but just getting one shot at a time, I say they're about the same. Fair point, next gen. Sasaki, his defense, his offense, that's the downfall. I agree. Keeps his hands down and leans his head. Yep, very front forward, leaving himself susceptible to uppercut, something to Brian. Yep, very front forward fighter and very leaky. And he wants to land his big power shots. And, he is susceptible to that uppercut. We've seen it happen before. And, it's going to be a fun, entertaining fight. I'm just kind of salty that I can't find a stream. Just like the Norfolk, Virginia card in Australia, it wasn't even offered here. So I have to, I think, get a VPN or rely on some of you guys to post the link somewhere because in Australia, we're limited on what we can see. Carlos Vargas in the house, always supporting the channel. Guys, this is my second live stream of the day. It's 12 o'clock. By this time every day, I've been up 7 hours. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I got a few more clients I have to coach here. I just uploaded my breakdown of Tucker versus Simpson. Catch that on the playlist. And then watch the first live stream. Okay, so there's another reason. So he was drained. He was fatigued against Hiroka. I mean, Sasaki can win. DJ in the house, I appreciate the tip and the support. DJ hooking it up. Sasaki can win. There's a path to victory, guys, and I think the path to victory for Sasaki to win is pretty evident to where Brian Norman Jr.'s camp, I assume, have game planned for that. And that game plan from Sasaki is to fight Norman Jr.'s ego, power versus power, fight in the middle of the ring, land your body shots, land your lead hooks. So this is where I said that it's going to be interesting off jump what game plan Brian Norman Jr. chooses to fight Sasaki at. If Sasaki gets his way, that's his chance of winning. Brian Norman Jr. is a good enough boxer to box him. Yeah, guys, everyone who supports my channel, whether it's tipping me or liking this video or commenting and supporting, it's all amazing, guys. This is my passion, boxing. It's so cool that we're developing this community with like-minded boxing heads because I learned just as much through you guys that you learned through me. The odds are juicy for Sasaki. Knockdown. Nice. Mac, most definitely. Yeah, so and guys, if as we get closer to fight night, I'm already heavy on Brian Norman Jr., but if you guys are still torn, you can watch the fight from a different scope. Win Santiago, appreciate you guys. You guys can watch the fight from a different scope if you want to choose knockdowns. We talked about it, or like when the fight will end. Because Sasaki could go in there and just razor blade Norman and get him out of there. Norman could do the same thing. So I can see both guys getting dropped. I could, like, if you want to do a knockdown prop over 1.5, I could see that happening. I could also see either guy winning by stoppage early, 4.5. So that's something you guys have to look at. Yeah, Godson. Nice. Yeah. You guys already know where I'm going heavy on. I'm just giving you options. And also, those who've been on my channel long enough know that I'm not trying to sell you on my pick. I give you reasons on my pick, but you don't have to agree with me. Norman, yep. I don't think, yeah. I think that every time we've seen big punchers in Japan, excluding Inoue. Inoue's been the X factor recently. When you look at Rikishi, when you look at, now Mishinori wasn't a big puncher, just specifically everything that they were saying about Rikishi versus Sugar Nunes. Think about the pride Rikishi fights with. He didn't get the win, but he earned me as a fan, even though I won money against him. That spirit, Sasaki does the same thing. Sasaki does the same thing. But for how Sugar Nunes fights, I would like to see Sugar Nunes sit on more punches. Sugar Nunes is almost like a more powerful William Zepeda. Kind of has that offensive sort of style to him. Aggressive, but he throws a lot of shots, and he's looking to drown you. But the thing about Norman Jr. is he could punch, and he sits on his shots. I got Norman. Yeah, all right. I'm not changing my bet, guys. I'm already all in on Norman stopping him. I'm not changing my bet. That's a hill I'll die on. Yeah, I agree. Both guys have pop, guys. It could go either way. And if Norman gets stopped and he loses his belt, I'll be here right after the fight saying I was wrong. And that's a beautiful part of our sport. What I've seen in the tape, what I've seen in the flaws, what each guy does well, what each guy doesn't do well. Also, never underestimate, guys, how much value there is watching a fighter adapt their game. You know what I'm saying? You know you guys like some fighters who fight after fight, they don't add anything to the game. Caleb Plant doesn't add anything to his game, right? A lot of fighters, you get to a certain level and you've reached your ceiling. Brian Norman Jr. is not that. He's 24, guys. He keeps adding to his game. And he's adding from the defensive side, which tells you what? His fight IQ is increasing. He's only going to get better. It's one of the reasons, and he's already world champion. It's one of my most anticipated fighters to see in their next fight, based off of this sentiment, is Charles Conwell. Because we will know right off the bat what if Conwell will ever be a world champion based off of what he looks like in his next fight, to see if he's made adjustments and added tools into his offense, his strategy, his fight IQ. So I just use him as an example because he's a recent guy who went in there and got outsmarted against Chino Garcia. And, you know, he lost that fight because he didn't have a plan B or C on offense. And Chino Garcia now positioned himself fighting Xander Zayas. And this is why boxing is so great, because you can't look or judge a guy off of one fight. I like seeing like the last few fights, and then also thinking about what they look like throughout their career, how they go about their business, and if they're adding things to their toolbox. And that's how I bet. I think Norman Jr. is adding things. What do you think about Simpson Tucker going the distance? Carlos Vargas, right now, that's the bet I have. I have Jahi on the money line. And if I were to bet an outcome, I think Jahi wins the decision. I don't see either guy getting stopped. I don't see Truck or Tucker getting stopped. I think so. And if I was able to bet on the distance, I would. But currently, I'm only getting the money line. And currently, I'm taking Jahi to fatten up a parlay. He's at $1.30 right now. Simpson does have a path to victory, like I said. It's a narrower path. And also, guys, Southie versus Ortho, that's important to talk about. So it's important to talk about what they want to do with their lead foot. So when you have, obviously, an orthodox fighter, their backhand's their right hand, their lead foot's their left foot, fighting a southpaw guy, Jahi's the orthodox, Truck is the southpaw. So Tucker's going to want to keep his left foot on the outside of Truck's front foot. So he's avoiding the backhand. Meanwhile, Truck, the southpaw, is going to want to keep his lead foot on the inside of Tucker's lead foot to walk him onto his backhand. So that first initial fight is going to happen with their feet. That's always the case with ortho versus southpaw. So that's something to look at. And then when you look at, I like Simpson's body work. I really think that's one of his strengths. I think that he's really good when he gets his opponent up against the ropes and in the corner. It's one of his strengths. Araneta versus Simpson. We covered that ad nauseum. To answer your question, I got Araneta. Next gen, I agree, Brandon. So I think when we're thinking about paths to victory, to finish my thought on that is Simpson, body work, has to put Tucker against the ropes. I just think Tucker has too many skills. Exactly. Simpson is too hesitant with his offense. Once Tucker will find his rhythm. Godson, and that's what I see in all the tape with Simpson, his work rate. Maybe that's a better way to put it. It's like a hesitance. He even said, guys, he said that he loses focus in a fight. So when you hear him say that, he says sometimes he loses concentration. So when you hear him say that and you see comments like Godson about being hesitant, You can't do that at the world level. You can't do that. You lose focus for 1 second at a high level, it's going to cost you. And so when I see things like that, maybe sometimes it could be his work rate. Why do they say southpaws have the advantage in boxing? Well, Brett, I think if they do say a southpaw has an advantage in boxing, it's because there aren't a lot of them. So whenever your brain and your muscle memory gets used to sparring a certain style, especially the physics of boxing, orthodox versus orthodox, you get used to where that range is going to be. You get used to where that jab's going to land. You get used to slipping a certain distance. When that's flip-flopped, that's where the advantage lies. So I think it's more about a statistical advantage in terms of how often does the orthodox fighter get a chance to spar against other Southies, or how often do they fight against southpaws? And look at some of the best southpaws of all time. A lot of that had to do with like timing, speed, angles. So it's a physics thing. It's not necessarily, well, you look at southpaw advantage in all sports. I'm going to come from a baseball perspective real quick. So one of my childhood best friends has a son, and I help do his strength and conditioning online. They live in Columbus, Ohio, and he's a southpaw. He's 11 years old, and he's a pitcher, and he's a leadoff hitter. And I was just telling his dad, my good friend, that when you look at scholarships coming out of high school, Division I colleges, on the mound as a pitcher, because I played baseball, a left-handed pitcher will get a scholarship. We'll just use their fastball. A left-handed pitcher will get a scholarship throwing a slower fastball than the right-handed pitcher, meaning that when you're looking at righties, you want to clock, at least when I played, entering the draft, major leagues. A right-handed pitcher to get drafted, you want to maybe upper 80s, early 90s. At the time, a lefty, a southpaw, low 80s, mid 80s would get the same opportunity to play based off of the arm angle, where the arm angle is coming, because there aren't a lot of southpaws. So to answer your long-winded question, it comes down to physics, not seeing it a lot, and statistics. Hopefully that made sense. Guys, wherever you're tuning in, we're approaching 45 minutes. I'm going to keep it on a little bit longer. I do have to run to coach another client here. Let's get these likes up. Everyone who's tipped me so far, that's amazing. That really makes my day, because it shows that our conversations have meaning and intent. Aranetta, yep, 100%. Hopefully you listen to, I know some of the boys here got him on Monday at a 220. Now he's $1.64, guys. I haven't seen odds swing like that. I could do a whole 2-hour video on why that's insane. It just actually has me thinking about how many, maybe it's once a week. How many times do the books get it wrong? And is Vegas going off of the algorithm on BoxRec? That's the only way I can see. My son-in-law had a contract with the Chicago Cubs. He was a left-arm pitcher. Yeah, so when you look at, I guarantee his fastball measured up, generally, guys his age, he'd be the craftier guy, because the ball's coming at a different angle. All the best hitters were lefty. Gwynn, Boggs, Bonds. Yeah, much love. And guys, a lefty coming out of home plate too. So you look at guys, in my day, they were called slap hitters. Or utility players. A guy who could put the ball in play, make contact, and beat out an infield single. Coming from the left-handed stance, you're closer to first base. A right-handed batter has to cross cross home plate. So that's another thing as well. And lefties have the advantage in physics. I'd be happy when Vegas gets it wrong. DJ, I think we got him. DJ, I think Vegas got it wrong. Ask Gary from 3D and Muscles from 3D. As soon as I've called them my Sunday night, their Saturday, when the New York card ended, they were getting ready to watch the Nakajima fight, the last card in Japan. And I brought it up. I was like, boys, I think Vegas has this wrong. If you could get it, take Aranetta. And then I think, DJ, we got him. I actually wish I would have gone heavier, because, it's almost a full 75-cent swing, which is insane. Guys, stay tuned to the channel. There's a Norman was plus 100. Now it's 135, and that's as you get used to betting and you make money and you're doing it for entertainment, but you're putting research behind it. If you're treating it like be a student of the game, they say. I interviewed this entrepreneur once, and he said his slogan was "Be obsessed or be average," and that's the way I look at it. If you become obsessed in anything, be undeniable at anything, you'll start seeing patterns. So in terms of finding the odds on fights and trying to predict winners, you could use a little bit of that and look for patterns. And I think, you know, knowing, you know, the international boxing scene, I think they got it wrong. Closing line value. Nice, Meech. Before I end this, I want to leave you guys with one thing. Right now, are there any fights you want me to cover? I got a couple days left. I got Thursday and Friday. Do you want me to feature and do an analysis video on any fights? Because I've done 3 so far. I did the, you know, Galalia 5 fight, obviously BNJ, and then Tucker and Truck. But of all the fights, let me know. Brett Stewart, yeah, shoulder injuries, man. Very common in baseball. Because some people have been asking me about Kona Walker fight. Maybe Vito Melnicki. Maybe I'll do a Vito Melnicki fight. I've done 2 on the Japan card, PJ. Actually, I didn't. I didn't do an Araneta fight. I've only talked about it. So, okay, it'll be a toss-up. It'll be either out. But the fight's tomorrow. You guys know how I stand. I've spoken ad nauseum why Araneta will win. Based off of his resume, who he's fought. We talked a little bit about who the Thais fought, his resumes. I think I'm going to do Vito Melnicki, maybe Callum Walsh. We'll see what happens. Guys, thank you for supporting my channel. Like this video. If you're still watching right now, I say thank you. Swindle, David Stevens. All right, that's the one. If you're still watching right now, I say thank you. Catch the breakdown of Tucker and Simpson and comment on that. Let me know in the comment section who you like. And tomorrow we're going to start building our long parlay. I already gave you a couple ideas, and I'm going to post another method knockdown prop for the Japan card. But guys, like always, thanks for the support. I'll be going live tomorrow as usual, and stay tuned.